Welcome back to Approved Unto God. I'm Joshua Govitz. We're in Proverbs chapter number 12 today, and we're going to pick up in verse number 8 and go down to verse number 14. A man shall be commended according to his wisdom, but he that is of a perverse heart shall be despised. He that is despised and hath a servant is better than he that honoureth himself and lacketh bread. A righteous man regardeth the life of his beasts, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. He that tilleth his land shall be satisfied with bread, but he that followeth vain persons is void of understanding. The wicked desire the net of the evil, but the root of the righteous yieldeth fruit. The wicked is snared by the transgression of his lips, but the just shall come out of trouble. A man shall be satisfied with good by the fruit of his mouth, and the recompense of a man's hand shall be rendered unto him. Father, Lord, please bless your word, God. I just pray, Lord, that it would just touch hearts, edify your saints, Lord. I pray, Lord, that you would just build us up in our most holy faith. God, please use me and to bring honor and glory to your name, Lord. I can't do anything without you, so I need you to fill me today. In Jesus' name, amen. Verse number 8, a man shall be commended according to his wisdom, but he that is of a perverse heart shall be despised. To get a good example of that, let's look over at 2 Chronicles chapter number 26 and verse 8. You know, I never really cared that much for Chronicles and 2 Chronicles when I was a younger Christian, but I'm sure I'm learning a lot now after 20 years, paying a lot more attention. And it's just a lot of illustrations in there of kings and what a good king does, what a bad king does. We are going to be made kings. We're already priests. There's a priesthood of the believer. But in the millennial reign, if you've suffered with him, you shall also reign with him, and you will be a king. Because in the New Testament it says you are kings and priests with him. So it'd be good to know what's the good way of a good king and the bad way of a bad king, and get a lot of examples of that so we can learn. 2 Chronicles 26:8, talking about Uzziah. And the Ammonites gave gifts to Uzziah, and his name spread abroad, even to the entering in of Egypt, for he strengthened himself exceedingly. So he earned a respect, and he got gifts from the Ammonites. And that's okay. And it's okay when other nations, even if they have the false gods, that they start gravitating toward Israel. That was the point of Israel. They were supposed to be a light unto the Gentiles. And oftentimes they were just bigoted, and they hated the Gentile nations, and they weren't that light. Solomon was a light. He was a type of Jesus Christ in the millennial reign. All the people that commended his wisdom, the Queen of Sheba coming to him and bringing the spices, the rare spices she brought, and hearing all his wisdom, and she fainted basically in her heart. She was out of breath. He took her breath away because of how wise he was. He was so full of God. And other nations, they would all come to Solomon. They wanted to hear the wisdom of Solomon. And just like Solomon, Jesus Christ is going to be set up, his kingdom is going to be set up in Jerusalem. And all the world during a millennial reign, all the different nations are going to come to him for wisdom. They're going to sit at his feet and learn. And he's going to be the light of the world. And then in a future sense, after the millennial reign, there is no more need of the sun, for the Lamb is the light thereof. So we don't even need the sun anymore at some point when Jesus Christ is the light. But the question is, are we as princes, kings in waiting, are we being a light? Are we learning how to be a light now? Are we shining forth to the Gentiles and to the Jews? Are we trying to get the gospel out as instructed, and using the proper means of doing that, biblical means, not worldly means, not worldly tactics to get the gospel out, but the right tactics? But he that is of a perverse heart shall be despised. And nobody cares to see the king that is a pervert, that perverts judgment. You know, people appreciated Solomon right away. It was because of his judgment. When he received the wisdom of God, it was evident in his judgment. There was two women, and they both claimed that their child was the living child. You know, that one of them laid on the child and smothered it and suffocated it on accident during the night, and the child died. And there's two women with two children. One of them got up, got the dead child, put it underneath or next to the woman, and took her child. So she swapped it in the middle of the night. And it was a hard matter to be discerned, but Solomon in his wisdom said, well, let me get a sword out, and this is how we're going to solve it. I'm going to cut the child in two, and we'll give one half to one mother and one half to the other mother. And he just had it real straight face the way he did it. And the one lady that was crooked and took her dead child and gave it to the other lady, or excuse me, took the other lady and took the other lady's living child, she was all for it. I mean, it was evident to everybody that's the child's mother right there. The one who said, don't take the child's life. Just give it to the other lady. Just give it to her. Just don't take the child's life. And Solomon said, that's the mother right there. So you see the great wisdom. And people commend that kind of wisdom. But these perverted kings that were all through Israel and Judah, they weren't commended. And instead of nations coming to bless the king, they came to try to kill the king, like Ahab. They said, don't even go to battle with anybody save the king of Israel, Ahab. They try to destroy the people, and oftentimes they destroy the people. Why? Because of the perverted judgment of their king. But he that is of a perverse heart shall be despised. Nobody likes a pervert. Nobody likes somebody. Yeah, you might get a rise out of people, make people laugh because you're perverse in your talk and you got little funny, dirty jokes to tell people. But when it comes down to it and somebody's having a hard time in their life, they're not coming to you for wisdom because you don't got any. Because, a fool's known by the multitude of words. And you're not speaking words of wisdom. You're just foolish talk all the time. And you're despised. Verse 9, he that is despised and have a servant is better than he that honoreth himself in lack of bread. He that is despised and have a servant. And it's good to look at commentaries and all that, but we don't always get the proper meaning from a commentary. I have the Dake commentary in my Bible, and it helps me oftentimes, but it didn't help me whatsoever in this. Let me read what Dake said. The poor man who provides for himself is better than the proud who lacks bread. And that's not what that says. Let's read it again. He that is despised and hath a servant. So who is he that is despised and hath a servant? That's going to be a rich man, right? Poor people don't have a servant. Is better than he that honoreth himself in lack of bread. So it's talking about a contrast of a poor man who is very braggadocious, if that's a word. He's always bragging about himself. Maybe he's bragging about his wisdom and all this, but he lacketh bread. I think of Eddie Haskell. I watch Leave It to Beaver. And he's always bragging on himself, and he's always the hero in every story. But we just saw an episode where he, I'm not going to tell the whole episode, but he fell off a cliff. And he was trying to scare Wally and Beaver and the friends that were all camping at night. And he ended up getting scared himself, and he took off running. I might as well start talking a little bit more about it. I don't tell too many stories, but Eddie Haskell and Lumpy, they start playing some scary sounds of animals making like growling sounds and howlings and all this kind of stuff. And they were playing it at night when Wally was sleeping and Beaver and his friends, and they're just getting a kick out of it, and they're getting up freaking out, and Wally has a big stick, and he's wondering, oh man, what is this, like some kind of howling going on. And then he tells Lumpy, well, cut it out, stop the recorder, or it was a record player, And all of a sudden they start hearing howling from like a wolf that was nearby, and it kept getting louder and louder. And he tells Lumpy, he goes, hey, I told you to turn that off. He goes, oh, I did turn it off. That's not me. And then they got freaked out, so they took off running. And Eddie Haskell ends up falling off a cliff, like maybe 20, 30 feet, and he landed on a ledge. And Lumpy comes back and tells Wally, you need to help me because Eddie Haskell just fell off a cliff. And he's alive, but he fell off and hit some bushes on the way down, and it kind of broke his fall. So then they're trying to get him up, and they got a rope, but it wasn't quite long enough. And and nobody really likes Eddie Haskell. The kids are kind of mocking him for falling down there and all this. And then eventually they call a park ranger, and the park ranger gets a harness, and he gets in the harness, and they pull him up. And then he's going on basically almost like he's a hero, and he's trying to tell the kids, oh, no, let that be a lesson to you, and all this. And, the park ranger kind of got sick of it. He's like, you know what? You're pretty foolish to be running around in an area like this in the middle of the night. You're lucky you didn't die and all this. Now I need you to come and give me the report of what just transpired, And he's just full of himself, and he's just honoring himself, and everybody else can see through it. They can see that he's just a big talker, And even the mother and father of Wally and Beaver, every time he comes over to the house, I don't know if you ever watch it. Oh, hi, Mrs. Cleaver. Oh, you look very wonderful, Mrs. Cleaver. Oh, did you do something different with your hair? And he's just like, always kissing butt all the time, and he sounds like the perfect, proper child, but everybody can see through it. And he honors himself all the time. He honors himself, but he lacketh bread. He doesn't really have anything to offer. He wants to offer help, he wants to offer advice, but then it seems whenever anybody takes his advice, they don't get nothing. They don't get nothing out of it. He's empty, but he honors himself. And I don't really care to give too long of a worldly illustration, but that one's just kind of fitting. But you'd be better off to be the rich man with the servant, but have a humble attitude. I think of somebody like Jay Leno, real humble, down to earth. He don't seem to brag or anything like that. He doesn't puff himself up, and I wouldn't say anybody really despises him, but some people may. Some people may say, he's got all those cars, and blah, blah, blah. He's got servants that film for him and, stand on the side of the road when he goes by in his race cars and films everything. And but that's okay. People are going to hate, it's okay if people hate you and just because you're rich. But don't give them the means to hate you because you're arrogant. It's better to be rich and to have a servant, but to be humble than it is to be poor and to be proud and boastful. Verse 10, a righteous man regardeth the life of his beasts, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. A righteous man regardeth the life of his beasts. And I think of Balaam in the Old Testament. Balaam was given direction of God, specific instructions. Don't go with these men. Don't go and curse Israel. And he goes anyways. And he's riding his donkey. And there's a small area in the road to go through, a narrow passageway. And the donkey sees the angel of God, the angel of the Lord. And he kind of pushes him up against the hedge. Excuse me. And hurts Balaam's leg, pushing him up against the hedge. And he doesn't want to go forward because he sees that angel there with that sword. And then eventually, he gets hit 3 times, and he falls down beneath the load of Balaam, and he just falls on the ground. He's like, I'm not going anywhere because there's an angel there. He can see it, but Balaam doesn't see it. And then God gives the ability to speak to that donkey. And then that donkey starts speaking to Balaam. And he starts saying, why have you hit me these 3 times? Have I not been a good donkey to you? And they start having a conversation. And that's one of the craziest things in the Bible. I mean, as if this is nothing big, no big deal. He just starts talking to his donkey. He doesn't say, "Oh, what is going on? How am I hearing a donkey speak? Man, I must have ate too much pizza last night." But he doesn't say anything of that sort. But he gets rebuked from his animal, and his animal's been good to him. His beast is his servant, you know. And we were just talking about a person that is despised and have a servant. But here's a man that has a servant which is a beast, and the beast has been good to him, but he does not treat it well. The Bible says the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel, you know, and he was cruel to his beast. And it turns out he had a wicked heart. And sometimes that's evidence even in how we treat animals. I've shown wickedness in my heart, and I've been bad towards animals before in the past, and I'm not going to go through it all, but yeah, I in retrospect, I look back and I said, you know, it's because my heart was wicked at the time, and therefore I wasn't very good to animals, you know. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of signs you can watch to see what kind of person has, what kind of heart a person has, what they say, what they do, how they treat people, how they treat animals. All this stuff pours out and evidences the heart of a man, whether a man is righteous or wicked. He that tilleth his land shall be satisfied with bread, but he that followeth vain persons is void of understanding. You know, if you work your own field and you till your own land and you sweat and you labor, if you're a farmer, you're going to be satisfied at the end of the day with the bread that you take in. You get the raw materials. You can make bread out of the wheat or whatever or the barley, the grains that you take in, and it's a satisfying thing when you work hard and you labor and you bring in and reap the harvest of it. And you're content with that. You're not too concerned about somebody else's farm, or what so and so is doing. Oh, I wonder what they're up to. I want to look at Facebook and find out what everybody's up to. Not likely. When you're a hard worker like a farmer and you're busy tilling your land, you're satisfied with the bread that you take in. You're not envious and trying to be like everybody else. And oh, you know what I'm saying? But he that followeth vain persons is void of understanding. But then we have maybe an idle person that follows someone on the internet, and they follow them on Instagram, they follow them on Facebook, they follow them on YouTube, and all they talk about is vain things. All they talk about is things that does not produce fruit. It's not going to benefit you in any way. All it is just entertainment. But the Bible says that you're vain. You're a vain person. Let's see what it says again. But he that followeth vain persons is void of understanding. They're vain, and you're following it. So the Bible says that you don't understand. You don't understand that this is not going to benefit you. Vain people will not benefit you. You're wasting your time. You want to hear all these debates, these podcasts that really have no spiritual significance, no relevance to the wisdom of God. But you're going to watch these shows, and you're going to watch Rush Limbaugh. Well, not anymore because he passed, but you're going to watch these political commentaries, and you're void of understanding. That's not where it's at. The wisdom that you are truly seeking, that you should be looking for, is that of a preacher, that of a man of God, that of a Christian, that of a Christian woman. You know, these are the people that have wisdom from God. These are the people that you're going to benefit from. But if you're going to go after what the world goes after, what other Gentiles go after, which is vain persons, you lack understanding. And that's the vast majority of Americans. Oh, I follow so-and-so. Just go through and look at who they follow. Look at the list of people they follow, and you're going to see, you know what? Vanity, 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 vanity. Oh, they follow so-and-so. Vanity. Oh, they follow the bikini model. Vanity. You know, why would you follow somebody that is a follower of all these type of vain people? We got to get wise in these last days. We need to start getting wisdom from God, spending more time in the book, spending more time listening to preaching, spending more time gaining understanding from God and not from vain persons. And I'm going to stay on that topic of the internet and influencers. And my pastor's been talking about that. He's been talking about soul ties and people going after these influencers on the internet. And you got to be careful of that. And even before there was an internet, we got Christians, we got preachers that are desiring the net of evil men. They see the worldly tactics of even vacuum salesmen, and they desire that tactic, and they try to implement it into a pamphlet or into a little book, and they say, you know what, I'm going to teach you, let's go soul winning. And that's a book written by Jack Hyles, and I know I've probably mentioned him 3 times in the past 3 sermons. But he would say, you know what, I would find a way to get into somebody's house where they can invite you in, and if they're not interested in the gospel, they don't seem to want to go along with maybe repeating a prayer. It just doesn't seem that they're really taking it in. I would actually, so he's like, this is something I've done before, and I think it works, you know. And I'm sorry, I'm stuttering around on this, but he said that I would say, hey, have you ever had your house dedicated? Oh, you never have? You know what? Why don't you pray with me, and we'll dedicate your house right now. And I think that would be a blessing. Let's do that. Father, Lord, please bless this house of this man, and we just we give this house to you, and we dedicate this house to you, and we know that you're the living God, and Jesus, that you came and died for mankind, and would you please just bring this house to a blessing or whatever. And then he would say, Jesus, come into my heart and save me, and be my Savior, and I now trust you as my Savior, and I know that you died for me, and come into my heart and save me. And he's just getting this man to say the words of the sinner's prayer. And he says that person just got saved. That person got saved because you tricked them into a sinner's prayer while you were trying to dedicate his house in a prayer. That's trickery. That's the evil net. That's manipulation. That's psychology. That is not Bible. Show me one place in the Bible where anybody suggested to even go into a sinner's prayer. Show me one place in the Bible where there was manipulation tactics used, worldly manipulation tactics used to get somebody to get saved. And I spotted this stuff when I was a young Christian. I was only saved maybe not even a year. And I said, this ain't right. This don't seem right. This seems cheesy. The tactics we use. Independent Baptists are notorious for it. You know, the Jack Van Impe style evangelism. Repeat this prayer, read this prayer, and if you read that prayer, oh, me and Jack want to hear from you. Please write us and fill in your name and your date of your salvation. Amen. You know, and it just seems like something that the world would do. You know, it don't sound like what I read. It doesn't look like what I read when I read my New Testament. Jesus did not use those kind of means to try to win somebody to himself. And when somebody did not have ears to hear, he allowed them to walk away. He didn't twist their arm. He didn't cause them to force them to believe. And I've been rebuked. And my friend, Brother Matt Leckie, we were both rebuked by a pastor of ours when we were young. and he got frustrated with us. And I remember he had a young lady during the winter repeat this prayer, and she was not interested. It was freezing cold. She had the door open to her house. And what would you do? You'd do almost anything just to get somebody off your porch, and you got the door open and they're taking your time. And he says, Lord Jesus. And she says, Lord Jesus, I now accept you as my Savior. And she's like, I now accept you as my Savior. And I had my eyes open kind of, and I could see her kind of looking around like, oh, this is weird, you know? And then he's like, after she repeats the prayer, he says, now wave to Jesus. He's in your heart now. Wave to Jesus. And I can't remember exactly how it goes, you know, but we walked away, and he said, what do you think of that, brother? And it was either me or Matt or both of us were like, yeah, that's a bunch of junk. And he was all upset. He said, what are you talking about? That girl just got saved. She just got birthed in the family of God. And I said, yeah, we'll see. We'll see when she shows up to church next Sunday. Yeah, we'll see. And they never show up. But these salesman type evangelists, they don't get it. This is not salvation. This is cheesy. This is stupid. And he said, well, you guys need to learn to just, God said, well, he'll make you fishers of men, and you just got to draw the net in. You're not drawing the net in. And we're like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? The wicked desire the net of the evil men? Is that the net you're talking about? The net of evil men? You mean we're not using manipulation tactics? You mean we're not using psychology to psychologically trick somebody down the Romans road and into a sinner's prayer? You know what? And it's all, it's rushing. It's rushing, trying to rush people into the family of God. He that soweth is nothing. He that watereth is nothing, but God that giveth the increase. God will harvest. God will bring in the increase. Your job is to sow. Your job is to water. And be patient. Not haste. Oh, I'm going to get them to repeat a prayer. You're going to get them to be a twofold child of hell is what you're going to get them to do. Give them the gospel and get out of the way. How about that? Another time, Brother Matt and I, we were at church, and there was a special meeting, and the evangelist there, you know, he had an invitation going, and there was a guy that went down the altar, and we went down there to deal with him because he was a visitor, and it appeared that he wasn't saved, you know, and he says that he wasn't saved and all this, and he was talking about some kind of problem with his girlfriend and all this kind of stuff, but there really wasn't a focus on the fact that he was a sinner and he needed a savior, and that he really understood the gospel, and we were trying to go over it with him, and it just seemed more like he wanted Jesus to be the genie to fix all his problems and get him out of the mess that he's in. Now, will Jesus fix your problems? He can. He doesn't usually always fix them like instantaneously, but he can start getting you back on that right path. But first, there's a concern: your soul. You're not in fellowship with God. You can't fellowship with God. You can't serve God. You can't do right. All you can do, even the plowing of the wicked, is sin. Everything you do is sin. We got to deal with that. We have to get the person to come to a realization that they fall short of the glory of God. They need a savior. And this guy wasn't ready. But the evangelist said, you know what, this is taking too long. Get out of the way, guys. Let me deal with them. He goes down there. Within a minute, they pop up. Amen. We got another person in the family of God. So-and-so just got saved and all this. And then he started talking to us a little bit later after the service, and he started talking about, oh yeah, I felt it. I felt him come in. And it's just all emotional stuff. It's all feelings. It's all, you know what I'm saying? And it's, this guy never come back, and we knew that. We knew he wouldn't be back. And the evangelist got another notch on his belt. And we've seen this type of thing a lot. People that they got that net of the evil men. They got that tactic that the world uses to get results. And we even see it on YouTube. We see the catchy titles. I understand somewhat the benefit of that. I mean, there could be a great benefit to that. But when it gets nothing but, they call it clickbaity type of titles. We see preachers all on the internet, independent Baptists, that everything's about UFOs, everything's about demons and angels and the bottomless pit and the hollow earth and the flat earth, and you desire the net of evil men, and you're using the net of evil men to try to allure Christians and allure the world to Christ. Christ doesn't need worldly allurements to get people into the family of God. Just preach the Word of God. Preach the truth. Preach the gospel. Preach the Bible. Teach the Bible. Is there strange things in the Bible? You know, we can go in Ezekiel and we could see the wheel within a wheel. We could see what looks like a UFO and a flying roll that's like a cigar-shaped UFO, and they've seen these kind of things through time. You know, I mean, there's been accounts of them. So there's stuff like that in the Bible. There's all kinds of weird things about the cherubims and all this, and about the gap theory and whatnot. And it's okay. Go ahead, teach that. Even put a nice title on it if you want. But go through the book, and when you get to those spots in the Bible, and they're in there, it's okay. Teach that. But that's not what the whole Bible's about. You know how much of the Bible is about practical things, about how to live right? But that's not popular, is it? And I would look at some of these YouTubers. Every time it's something to do with aliens and all this stuff, all just thousands and thousands, 100,000 views, 300,000 views or whatever. And I would see something that wasn't a catchy title, or something that another preacher preached from the same church, and it was something about Christian living 2000. I mean, come on, like 80% drop in views. Nobody wants to see anything about living the Christian life. Nobody cares about prayer. Nobody cares about learning to study your Bible. All they want is, oh, feed me crazy weird things. I want to hear about blood-sucking angels from Jupiter. Entertain me. And you know that you can even follow vain men that are Christians. They have the emphasis on not really on not what God has the emphasis on. It's crazy, really. The wicked is snared by the transgression of his lips, but the just shall come out of trouble. The wicked is snared by the transgression of his lips, but the just shall come out of trouble. And if you've seen enough court movies, you know that a good lawyer would just continue to ask a lot of questions. And if a person is lying, which a lot of people do when they go up, and they don't have, it's nothing to them to place their hand on the Bible and tell a lie. But the more you ask questions and the lie snowballs and they have to cover their lies, and it has to build up more and more, where it gets to the point where you might ask another question again and they forget their own lies, because it starts getting difficult to keep this lie alive. And all of a sudden you catch them in their words. What does it say? The wicked is snared by the transgression of his lips. All of a sudden he's snared by his own words. All of a sudden you got him. You know, that's why they always say you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. And a wise person would just take that right and just shut their mouth. Even if you're not guilty, the more you talk, the more information you give, the more chance you are to say something the wrong way, and to be found guilty. They'll use it against you. So the wicked is snared by the transgression of his lips, but the just shall come out of trouble. And the just shall come out of trouble. We've seen in the Bible Joseph get in trouble. We've seen Joseph in and out of trouble. We've seen Joseph, and it's not any trouble that he created, but his brothers created trouble for him. Potiphar's wife created trouble for him. When she came in there and tried to seduce him, he ran off and she grabbed his garment and ripped his clothes off him. But it looked like he was guilty, and he spent some time in jail. But what delivered him? The fact that he was just. He ended up getting out of jail, didn't he? He ended up being commended for his wisdom. And let's look back at verse number 8. A man shall be commended according to his wisdom. The Pharaoh knew that, you know what? This man just showed me what my dreams mean. He interpreted my dreams for me. He has wisdom, and I'm going to commend him. I make him the second in command in all of Egypt. And he was delivered, wasn't he? But the just shall come out of trouble. Be honest. Give the wisdom of God. Let the fruit of your lips be just and right. And God will get you out of trouble. You know, there could have been a lot of trouble for Abraham lying and saying, you know what, this is Sarah, this is my sister, when he went before Pharaoh and he went before Abimelech. But who came through for Sarah, on the behalf of Sarah? God did. God steered those men away from committing adultery with her. You have to trust God. You have to just tell the truth. You have to just be right by God and trust that, you know what, even if this seems like I'm going to get in trouble because I'm being truthful and honest, then so be it. Get in trouble. But don't lie. You don't want to be deceitful, especially in the last days. The more you sow deceit and lies, the more it comes back to reap. You reap it. You're going to get deceived. You're going to follow after vain persons. You're going to find yourself in the wrong kind of church with the wrong kind of preacher. You're going to find yourself with the wrong kind of individuals that you will call friends that aren't really friends. People that work deceitfulness. Verse 14, a man shall be satisfied with good by the fruit of his mouth, and the recompense of a man's hand shall be rendered unto him. You know, you have the fruit that pours out of your heart from the Word of God that you've been putting in, and it will create a satisfaction. It will create a joy in your heart because you know that you're speaking right things. You know that you're allowing yourself to be a mouthpiece for God, and God's going to bless you, and He's going to give you that peace that passeth understanding. And just like the man that works real hard, the farmer that tills his ground, and he's satisfied with bread, you're going to be satisfied with the fruit of your mouth. You're going to be thankful. You know what? I used to talk like this, and I used to cuss, and I used to tell perverted jokes and all this kind of stuff. But now I'm helping people. Now I'm getting wisdom from God, and I'm giving wisdom out to people. And I'm seeing how it's helping others, and I love others, and I have a deep satisfaction, and I'm getting fed with bread, and I'm getting fed with fruit from my own lips that came from the wisdom of God, and others are getting fed bread and fruit from the wisdom of God coming out of your mouth. God's using you. Now God uses you. What a wonderful thing to be used of God. And the recompense of a man's hands shall be rendered unto him. You know, a preacher spends his time studying the Bible. The preacher spends his time preaching the Bible. And he's not known to work with his hands. Some preachers, they can't fix a thing. They can't hardly follow directions. As a lot of times they're kind of arrogant. They don't even want to read the directions. They want to just start putting something together. And I've heard of a lot of pastors and stuff that are kind of fumble around with stuff. They're just not really talented in a worldly sense in any kind of trade or anything like that. But you got to understand that they've given themselves over to the trade of learning the Word of God and teaching the Word of God and preaching the Word of God. And they're in study. And when they're not in study, oftentimes they're ministering to people. It's not just, oh, I want to study the Bible and I just want to be a pastor because all I want to do is preach. You have to minister to people. You have to give your time to people. There's people grieving the loss of a loved one. And I know our pastor, he's been very busy all summer going over and being there. Sometimes, I mean, before rigor mortis sits in even. I mean, he's already there when somebody lost a loved one. And he's praying with them and giving his time to them. And you know what? He should be recompensed for that. And the recompense of a man's hand shall be rendered unto him. It didn't say the recompense of his hands shall be rendered unto him. He's not so much working with his hands as he is working with his lips. He's working with his mouth. A man should be satisfied by the fruit of his mouth. He's satisfied doing God's will and being a preacher. And sometimes they get flack. Sometimes they get criticized. Well, I don't think the preacher ought to earn a paycheck. But you think the doctor should? He diagnoses your problems. And he gives you something to help and benefit you so to get rid of your problems. And then in a spiritual sense, that's what the preacher does. And also in a carnal sense too. With everyday living, he's benefiting you, and yet you think that he's not worthy of a paycheck, he's not worthy of his hire. Muzzle not the ox, in the New Testament, and he's worthy of his hire. He's worthy of double honor. And the recompense of a man's hand shall be rendered unto him. So the man who works a job, the man who works with his hands, who's working with steel or working with plastic molding or doing whatever they do, if they're a mechanic or a maintenance man or whatever, they work with their hands and they render unto him some of the fruit of their labor. And he is speaking with his words, and he's being recompensed from a man's hands, and it shall be rendered unto him. And that should be something that it should go without saying. Everybody else, the mechanic tells you what's wrong with your car, and thank you for showing me what's wrong with my car, and we're willing and ready to pay the bill, whatever you did to diagnose and fix my problem. And then we want to go in there and take up the pastor's time and come to him with a myriad of problems. And he spends hours with us in counsel. Well, he's in it for the money. Why that strange bias? That doctor, he's just in it for the money. That mechanic, he's just in it for the money. No, you know what? He's got a calling. He's got a calling that it takes a lot of time to study this book. It takes a lot of, and the Bible says that it's a weariness to the flesh. Much study is a weariness to the flesh. Just like labor is with your hands, it's a weariness to the flesh. You know why people don't study the Bible? You know why people don't study almost anything? They don't want to study in their college courses or whatever, and it's tough for them because it's a weariness to the flesh. It wears you out. It's hard. It's hard work. It's hard to even use your mind to think, to meditate on things, to dedicate time, to set aside your phone, to set aside all the distraction, to get alone with God, to get something from God. That takes work. Oh, the preacher, he just don't want to work. He's laboring for you, for your soul. Show some respect. Show some respect. This has been Approved Unto God, and I hope you join me again next time.